All right, let's take a journey way, way back. We're talking 66 million years ago, to the exact day a massive rock, 10 kilometers wide, just fell out of the sky. This one event ended a dynasty that lasted 150 million years. And believe it or not, it's the reason we're even here today.
Just try to wrap your head around that for a second. A world with no trace of us. Just silence. An endless ocean of green, with life everywhere. Wild, free, and so ancient it's almost impossible to imagine. This was a planet that belonged to giants, to true titans.
So, that brings us to the core question, doesn't it? What if the end of their world was actually the beginning of ours? It's a huge idea, right? It totally reframes what we think of as the single greatest disaster in Earth's history. It wasn't just an ending. It was a violent, chaotic, and, well, totally necessary beginning.
Okay, so before we get to the end, we've got to understand the world that was lost. A world that was, in its own savage and beautiful way, absolutely perfect. I mean, just look at the sheer scale of this. We're not talking about a few big lizards running around. This was a complex, global ecosystem. Herds of triceratops, these massive pterosaurs ruling the skies, and of course the king, Tyrannosaurus rex. Everything was in this perfect, brutal balance. It was a planet just teeming with life on a scale that, honestly, is kind of hard for our brains to even process today.
So, while all this incredible life was flourishing down on Earth, something else was happening. Far out in the blackness of space, a silent, unstoppable threat was on its way. A cosmic appointment was being set, and nobody on Earth had a clue.
You know, this wasn't some random thing that just happened. This rock's journey was millions of years in the making. It got knocked loose from some other collision way back when and just traveled, silently through the dark, on a direct collision course with history itself. Now here's a really important piece of the puzzle. While all these giants were ruling the planet, there were others, hiding in the shadows, scurrying in the dark. Our distant ancestors. Tiny little mammals, just trying to survive. They had absolutely no idea that the end of the world was about to be the best thing that ever happened to them.
And so we arrive at the final moments, the final approach. Imagine the scene, the last few seconds of the Cretaceous period. Maybe the animals looked up, the world went silent. It's like the Earth itself just held its breath. 70,000 kilometers an hour. I mean, can you even fathom that? This 10-kilometer wide chunk of space rock wasn't just falling, it was screaming through the atmosphere. It was moving so fast, the air around it basically turned into a superheated ball of plasma.
First, there was a flash, a silent, impossible light that was brighter than anything imaginable. It just lit up the entire sky. For one split second, it was like there were 1,000 suns in the sky. And then, impact. The energy release, 100 million megatons. It's a number that's so big it almost loses its meaning, right? But what it means is power. Enough power to vaporize part of the ocean and melt solid rock in the blink of an eye.
And from that point of impact, a shockwave just ripped across the entire planet. Forests flattened. A tsunami, over a kilometer high, roared across the oceans. The very air caught fire. This wasn't just some big explosion. This was the surface of the planet being violently remade.
But you know, the incredible thing is, the fire and the blast, that was just the beginning. The real killer wasn't the heat. No, it was the long, cold darkness that came next.
So for hours, maybe days, the entire planet was basically an oven. All the rock and debris that got blasted into space started raining back down, like a global storm of fire, setting the world ablaze. And the hit itself, it left a scar, a crater 180 kilometers wide, that's still there today. All that dust and soot got thrown up into the atmosphere, and it just stayed there, blocking out the sun. For years, it was a global nuclear winter, and the chain reaction was brutal and simple. No sun means no photosynthesis. Plants die. Then, the creatures that eat plants starve. And then, the predators that eat them follow. The whole food chain just collapsed, from the bottom all the way to the top. And then, nothing. The roar of the T-Rex, the sounds of the forest, all gone. Just a deep, profound silence that fell over the entire planet.
But here's the amazing thing about life. Even in what was basically a frozen, silent tomb, it finds a way. Something new was beginning to stir in that darkness. It started with something as simple as a breath,
After years in the dark, the skies finally started to clear. The dust settled, and a single ray of sunlight hit the ground, and it was like the whole planet took its first breath of a brand new age.
And just like that, the age of reptiles was over. Gone. This was probably the most abrupt, dramatic shift in the history of life on Earth. The world of giants was replaced, and in its place, those small, adaptable mammals that hid in the shadows, they were the ones who came out to inherit the Earth. This wasn't just a changing of the guard. It was a total rewrite of the rulebook for life itself.
And that brings us to the most incredible part of all of this. This whole event, this epic story of destruction, it's not just some ancient history lesson. It is, in a very real way, our story.
I mean, really think about it for a second. If that rock hadn't hit, would the dinosaurs have ever gone away? Mammals, our ancestors, might have just stayed small, hiding in the dark forever.
The death of their world was the spark that lit the fuse for ours. That one single violent moment of total destruction planted the seeds of our story. A story that would unfold over millions of years and lead, eventually, right here, to us. It wasn't the end of the world. It was just the end of a chapter, and the explosive beginning of ours.